Hey everyone, and welcome back to Roadside Coder, and welcome to the fourth video of our MERN Stack Tutorial Series. In today's video, we are going to create our very first web server by using Node.js. And also we will create our very first API by using Express.js. So let's get started. So I've opened VS Code over here and I've opened a folder called nodezipper-MERN. You can name your folder whatever you like, it doesn't really matter. So click over here and open terminal. Now the first command that we are going to run is npm init. So what does npm init do? npm init initializes our directory so that we can start developing our Node.js applications. It's gonna create a file called package.json which will store all of our npm packages. So what is npm, you asked? I explained in one of our previous video that npm means Node Package Manager and it comes bundled with Node.js. So let's run this and instantly you can see that it's going to ask a few questions. First, package name. So I'm gonna keep the same name, nodezipper-MERN. So I'm gonna press enter. Then it's gonna ask for version. I'm gonna press enter, description enter, entry point index.js. Okay, for entry point, I'm gonna change it to server.js. It's just your choice, whatever the name of the entry point you like. Test command, nothing. Get repository, nothing. Keywords, nothing. Author, I'm gonna put my name inside of it. Okay, so everything is done. So is this okay? Yes, it is. So now you can see our package.json file has been generated with all the relevant information. Okay, so now we are ready to install express.js package. So I'm gonna type npm I express. You can write npm I express or npm install express and press enter. So you can see it's fetching the express.js package from the npm website and it's bringing it to our package.json. Now notice over here, it has created this folder called node_modules. So node_modules contains all of our dependencies, such as in our case, it's express.js. So let's see. You can see over here, express.js is located over here. Great. And it also created this package-log JSON file. It contains the dependency of our other dependencies. So I know it's a little bit confusing, but think of this way that it contains all of the packages that are dependent on Express or on which the Express is dependent. So it contains all of those packages. Great. Now let us create a new file over here, which we named server.js, which will be our entry point. So first of all, I'm going to import Express inside of it. So const express equals require. So you need to use something called require to bring in the packages from our node modules or package.json. So express. So there we go. Now we need to create an object of this imported package. So const app equals express function. All right, now it's time to create our web server. So how do we do that? We type app.listen. So it's gonna listen on a particular port that we provided. For example, if we run React app, it listens on port 3000. So for our case, we can assign it any port, let's say 5000. And we're gonna console log on this port. Let's say server started on port 5000. Yep, looks good. Now let's try to run this file. How do we run this file? We're gonna type node server.js and press enter. And you can see over here, server started on port 5000. Okay, you know what? Let me just keep this server.js file inside of a folder called backend so that we can differentiate between our backend and frontend. So this is the backend folder. I'm gonna put it inside of our backend folder. Okay, so all of our backend related files will be kept inside of this backend folder. So let me change this command. I'm going to exit this terminal by pressing Ctrl and C. So now we type node backend / server.js and you can see server started on port 5000. We have successfully created our very first web server. Congratulations. Great. Now every time we start this server, we have to type this long line node backend slash server.js. So I have a solution for this. Let's go to package.json, and we don't need this test, so I'm gonna remove it. And instead I'm going to add a script called start. And what will the script do? Script will do node backend slash server.js. Alright, now try to restart our server again. So this time I'm gonna type npm start and press enter, and there we go. It has successfully ran this script and server started on port 5000. Great. Now that we have successfully created our very first web server, it's time to create our very first API endpoint. So what is an API endpoint? So whenever we try to fetch a data from our database or our backend, the API endpoint is the route from where the data is served or on where the data is served. Let me try to explain over here. So I'm gonna go and type app.get. So I explained you these 4 type of requests: get, post, put, and delete in our previous video or video before that. So get request basically what does is brings the data from backend to the front end and serves it. So app.get, and our endpoint will be just slash comma, and it's gonna take a callback over here, and inside of this arrow function we're gonna have a request and a response variable. So inside of it we will type response.send. What will we send? Let's say API is running. Alright, now it's time to test out this endpoint, but we have to restart our server again since we made the change to this file. So let's restart it. Alright, now let's go to our browser, and I'm gonna go to localhost 5000 and press enter. There you go. API is running. Congratulations, you have created your very first API. Let's go back to our VS Code and let's try to create another API endpoint. And this time we will try to serve our nodes. As you know, the basic feature of our node zipper app is to create nodes and then serve those nodes from the backend to the front end. So let's just go over here and create a new folder called data, and inside of it I'm going to create a new file called nodes.js. So nodes.js. Now inside of this nodes.js file we need to put some dummy data that we can serve from our backend to our front end or to our API. So let's go to our browser, let's go to github.com/piyush-eon, and I already told you in the previous video where our repository has been located. It's inside of this repository and node zipper. So if you go inside of over here, go to backend, and inside of the data folder you can see there is node.js file. Just copy this. We're not going to need this file in the future. We're just using it to just demonstrate the API. So I'm gonna paste this stuff over here, and it's nothing, it's just a simple array of nodes with ID, title, content, and some category. So 4 nodes are over here. So great. Let's try to serve this from our backend to our front end. So I'm going to create another app.get, and this time I'm going to keep it like /API/nodes, and we're going to have the callback request comma response, just like we did previously. And this time we're going to send response.json or response.send, and we're gonna send nodes. So where will these nodes come from? It's gonna come from data and /data/node. So let's import them first. So const nodes equals require dot /data/nodes. Great, let's save this, and it should work now, but we have to restart our server again since we made changes. So let's restart it. Alright, great. Let's go to Chrome, and what was the endpoint? /API/nodes. Let's go over here. /API/nodes. Press enter. There you go. You can see over here the data is being served from our backend through our API. Great, that's a great progress. Now let's move forward. So I hope you remember this flow diagram that we discussed in one of our previous videos of how the backend serves the data to our front end. We are requesting the data through this endpoint /API/nodes, and it goes to backend, and then backend serves this data through Express.js to our front end. Now let's try to create an API so that we can fetch a single node. So this is for all of the nodes, right? So we just want to fetch one single node. So for example, if we go over here and type /1, then it should give us only this node. So let's move back to our VS Code, and I'm going to create another endpoint app.get, and this time I'm going to name this /API/nodes/what ID. We're going to use our ID to know what node we are trying to fetch. So we're going to use the ID, and just like that, a callback, request response, and inside of it, now here's the part where we need to find this particular ID inside of our nodes array, this array. So I'm going to create const node or a single node. So nodes array dot find, we're going to find it inside of this nodes array. So we're going to pass an arrow function of n. So if n dot id is equals to request dot params dot id. Now you might be confused regarding this, so let me explain you. The way we can fetch the ID from our URL is by using request dot params. If we type request dot params, it's gonna have all of the parameters that we have inside of our ID. So let me try to demonstrate it first. So let's say if we have our ID, then we have something called ID2. So let's try to hit this URL, and I'm gonna first log this request. So let's say request dot params. Let's see what we get over here. Jump back to our browser, and let's 1 and / I'm gonna say let's say 3. So it's gonna say cannot get. It's because, okay, we have to restart our server obviously. All right, now let's try to hit this endpoint again. It's gonna hang because it's not returning anything, but when we see our console, you can see ID is 1, ID2 is 3. So this is what request.params helps us to do. So we only need ID1 or just the ID. So we're going to remove this, and we're going to remove this too. So great. It's finding it inside of this nodes array. If it's going to iterate through each and every node, and it's going to find this. If the ID matches that particular node, then it's going to return that particular node to our node variable. All right, so we have our node. Now what do we need to do? Response dot send node. Great. Now let's go and try this out. So let's try to hit 1. Okay, one more thing. I forgot to restart the server again. There we go. All right, let's try to hit 1. All right, we have our first node. Let's try to hit 2. We have our second node. Great. All right, next thing that I'm going to explain you is called a .env file. So what is a .env file? So .env file contains all of our secret information related to our application. For example, if we want to store any password or any API key or stuff of that sort, so we create an .env file. For example, in this case, let us want to have our port number in .env file. So I'm gonna go to our root folder and create a file called .env. But to use this file, we have to install a package called .env. So I'm gonna go over here, cut the server, and npm install .env. So this is the package that you need to install. And here we go, it has installed successfully. Great. So inside of our .env file, we're going to create a new variable called port. So port is going to have a value of, let's say, 5000. Save it. So this port can be defined during our production. Whenever we push our app to production, we can configure our .env file from the dashboard itself. You're gonna know all of this when we push our app to the Heroku. So don't worry about this now. All right, let's go back to server.js and let's import the .env. So const .env equals require .env. All right. And we need to put it like this. So .env.config. Config. So now we are ready to use our .env file. So how do we use it? Where we are defining our port, we just need to type process.env.port. So let me just create another variable for it. So let's say const port, and inside of it we need to store our port from .env file. So process.env.port. And if that port is not available, we can assign any other port, let's say 5000. So if we have assigned any other port over here, 6000, 7000, any port, if that is not available, we're gonna use our default port of 5000. Great, let me replace this 5000 with the port and replace this to server started on port. So let's create a template string over here. And we need to surround it with backtick now. All right, so it's gonna assign the port over here. So let's try to restart the application. Npm start. Okay, works flawlessly. Now you might be seeing that we need to restart our app again and again whenever we are making a change. So how do we get rid of this problem? We need to install a package called Nodemon. Npm Install Nodemon. So what Nodemon helps us to do is whenever we make changes to the file, it automatically restarts our web server. So we don't need to restart it again and again. Okay, so there's some error over here. Let's try to run that again. Alright, great. This time it has installed successfully. You can see Nodemon is over here. So now how do we run Nodemon? So we need to type Nodemon instead of node and backend /server.js. Let's try to go over here and replace this node with Nodemon and then try to run this script. So npm start. Okay, now it works. Now watch. When I go to server.js, let me remove this semicolon and try to save it. You can see the server has restarted automatically. Let me do something else and save it. Now it's gonna give us error because you can see it has detected that this thing is not defined. So let me close it and then save it again. And then it has again restarted due to changes. So great. We have successfully created our very first web server. We have successfully created our very first API. In fact, many of our APIs, we are serving our nodes. We are serving a particular node. Now let's try to understand what the job of Postman is. You might remember we have installed Postman in our previous video. So now let's see what Postman helps us to do. So Postman, let's open it up and there we go. And just go over here and click on this plus icon. So this will help us to make request from over here and it's gonna display the result in this response section. So let's try to make a request to our get endpoint, this endpoint or this endpoint. So let's go over here. What was our URL? HTTP localhost 5000. Let's just hit only localhost 5000 now. And you can see API is running. Let's try to request our nodes. API/nodes. Here is the list of our nodes. Let's try to request our ID. So I'm gonna go over here and press and enter 1 and send. There we go. Try it again. Working flawlessly. So in today's video, we learned how to create our web server, how to create our API, and how to use Postman to make API requests. Now in our next video, we will initialize our very first React.js app and we will try to build some components such as header and footer, etc. Let's worry about that in the next video. And I hope you have accessed the playlist. If you haven't, just go to your browser and go to youtube.com/roadside coder. Go to this channel, go to playlists, And here you can see MERN Stack project tutorial with Redux. You can access this playlist, click on this button to save this playlist so that you can be updated on whichever video that I will upload next. And also subscribe. Just go to over here. It's just simple as just clicking on the subscribe button and just click on this bell icon and press on all. It's that simple and it's free. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.